Welcome to the 8 Limbs of Yoga. Today we're going to be talking about the 8 Limbs of Yoga and what they mean for you in your life. The 8 Limbs of Yoga are they're an offering, they offer guidance on how to live a meaningful and purposeful life. They come from the Yoga Sutras of Patanjali, which was originally written by Patanjali, a man of Indian descent who lived between the 2nd and 4th century BC. But it has since then been translated by many authors. So what are the Yoga Sutras? Well, the Yoga Sutras contain 196 what they call sutras, which are aims and practice of yoga, development of yogi powers, and liberation. They also warn you on the pitfalls of the spiritual journey and how to overcome them. And some of the practice comes from the 8 Limbs of Yoga. So here are the 8 Limbs of Yoga. Let's go through them now. The very first limb is the yamas, which refers to vows or disciplines or practices that are primarily concerned with the world around us and our interaction with it. While the practice of yoga can increase physical strength and flexibility and aid in calming the mind, what's the point if we're still rigid, weak, and stressed out in day-to-day life? Now, the 5 yamas include ahimsa, which references nonviolence, satya, truthfulness, asteya, non-stealing, and brahmacharya, the use of energy, and aparigraha, non-greed or non-hoarding. Now, of course, this is the practice of transforming and benefiting every aspect of life, not just the 60 minutes spent on a mat when we practice yoga. If we can learn to be kind, truthful, and use our energy in a worthwhile way, we will not only benefit ourselves with our practice, but everything and everyone around us. The second limb is the niyamas, usually refers to duties directed towards ourselves, but can also be considered with our actions towards the outside world. These include saucha, or cleanliness, santosha, contentment, tapas, discipline or burning desire, svadhyaya, self-study or self-reflection and study of spiritual texts, and isvara pranidaha, surrender to a higher power. The niyamas are traditionally practiced by those who wish to travel further along the yogic path and are intended to build character. The physical aspect of yoga is the third step on the path to freedom, called the asana. Now, the asana here doesn't really refer to the ability to perform a handstand or aesthetically impressive backbend. It just means seat, specifically the seat you would take for the practice of meditation. So essentially, the asana practice is to help you prepare your body for meditation. The most important posture, according to the yogic experts, is a posture the practitioner can hold comfortably and motionless. The idea is to be able to sit in comfort so we're not pulled by the aches and pains of the body or restlessness due to an uncomfortable position during meditation. And perhaps this is something to consider in your next yoga class if you always tend to choose the advanced posture rather than the one your body's able to attain. Pranayama. The word pranayama refers to energy or life source, and it can be used to describe the very essence that keeps us alive, as well as the energy in the universe around us. The prana also describes the breath, and by working with the way we breathe, we affect the mind in a very real way. Pranayama can be understood as breath control or breath restraint, and can also be translated as the freedom of breath, or breath expansion, or breath liberation. The physical act of working with different breathing techniques alters the mind in many ways, and we can choose calming practices or more stimulating techniques. Each way of breathing will change our state of being, but it's up to us whether we perceive this as controlling the way we are feeling or freeing ourselves from the habitual way our mind may normally be. Pratyahara. This pratya means to withdraw, draw in, or draw back. And ahara refers to anything we take in by ourselves, such as the various sights, sounds, and smells our senses take in continuously. When sitting in a formal meditation practice, this is likely to be the first thing we do when we think we're meditating. We focus on drawing in. The practice of drawing inward may include focusing on the way we're breathing, so the limb would relate directly to the practice of pranayama as well. Instead of actually losing the ability to hear and smell and see and feel, the practice of pratyahara changes our state of mind so that we become so absorbed in what we're focusing on that the things outside of ourselves no longer bother us, and we're able to meditate without becoming easily distracted. Experienced practitioners may be able to translate pratyahara into everyday life, being so concentrated and present in the moment at hand that things like sensations and sounds don't easily distract the mind. Now, dharana means focused concentration, means holding or maintaining. Closely linked to the previous two limbs, dharana and pratyahara are essential parts of the same aspect. In order to focus on something, the senses must withdraw so that all attention is put on that point of concentration. And in order to withdraw our senses in, we must focus and concentrate intently. So things like the practice of tratak, which is candle gazing, visualization, and focusing on the breath are all practices of dharana. And it's at this stage many of us get to when we think we're meditating. Now, dhyana, the seventh limb, is meditative absorption, when we become completely absorbed in the focus of our meditation. And this is when we're really meditating. All the things we may learn in a class or from a teacher are merely techniques offered to you in order to help you settle, focus, and concentrate. The actual practice of meditation, it's definitely not something that we can actively do, but it describes the spontaneous action of something that happens as a result of everything else. Essentially, if you are really meditating, you won't have the thought, oh, I'm meditating now. And the eighth limb is samadhi. Many people know the word samadhi as meaning bliss or enlightenment, and this is the final step of the journey of Patanjali's Yoga Sutras. After we've reorganized our relationships with the outside world and our inner world, we come to a final state of bliss. Now, to put the 8 limbs of yoga into practice, start by choosing one or two to focus on. For example, you might choose to work on ahimsa, nonviolence, as you practice a regular asana or meditative practice. Then choose another, and so on. It's important to recognize that this is a lifelong practice and self-study of the inner self. What to do now? Review the yamas and niyamas and choose one or two to focus on each week. Then develop a regular yoga and meditation practice. Perhaps you consider joining the weekly yoga classes or find another one that you like. I encourage you to post in the Facebook group and tag someone just to let us know what you're focusing on.